Storytelling from a life lived. Storytelling as a biography. There's so many different frames of storytelling that all fit into one category, telling the story. Storytelling is a movie. It's a movie line, it's a plot, it's a drama, it's a sitcom, it is a romance comedy, it is a mystery storytelling. So when you tell your own story, I mean the story of your life. When I look at myself and I tell my story, and I tell myself this is my biography, this is the story of my life, my story of life lived. That is a whole different frame of mind for me. Now, I realized when I was around 16 years old that I had a story. And my story was, granted, not very long because I was only 16. But I realized that the story frame that I have, and it was in play, and I realized that that storyline was a biography. At that time, I was doing a lot of research on some different things, and I was doing a lot of things on, not so much manifesting because we didn't really know what that was then. We didn't call it that. It was just, for me, it was just knowing that what I was doing was energy vibration, attracting energy vibration. So when I look at my story, and I encourage you to look at your story also, because that's going to be your tutorial for today, is your story. So look at your story and look at the life you've lived up until now, from the time you can remember up until now. Tell your story, the life you've lived. What are your ups? What are your downs? What are the successes you've had? What are the failures you've had? What are the emotions attached to each one of these seasons or roads in your story? But when you write down your story, and I mean write it down longhand, on paper, with a pen, a pencil, whatever, but write it down because the energy goes into it when you write it down. If you're just going to type it in, you don't get as much energy per se as if you write it down, like if you're in a journal. But when I started writing my story, and I started looking at my life up until 16 years old, because I had started around 16, and I looked back on the ups and downs I'd had as a child growing up, the different things I'd learned, the different roads I'd crossed, like learning to ride a bike, learning to skate, the first date, birthday parties, hanging out with friends, going swimming, these kind of things. That's a teenage thing, a kid thing. So when I started writing down the different aspects and different joys and the heartaches in my life, I seen a pattern going. I seen a pattern that was evolving in different things I was doing at different times in my seasons, and different ways that I was making an impact on how I was feeling. And I realized by looking at my story, I could see the emotions I had at that time and what those emotions were triggering back to me just by reading my story. This is why reading your story and writing your story down is so important, especially if you're trying to manifest, you're trying to grow, you've got goals, you've got systems in place, you've got these things, but nothing's happening. Nothing is growing for you. So look at what you can do and look at the story you had so far. If you're older, write down your story. It doesn't matter. Even if you're 60 or 70 years old, write down your story. Write it down. You're going to see a pattern evolve into the different emotions you had at different times of your life. Some of you need a bigger book than others. I have several books. Let's put it that way. I have a library of books that I have written my story. So my story is an emotional, happy, sad, uplifting, downtrodden, crying. It's a failure, of success, of defeat. It's a drama. My life story is a drama. It's a romantic drama. I have the story of the birth of my children, how much joy they give me. I love them so much. That's part of my story. So whatever you have in your story, Maybe you have goals that you're trying to get, you're trying to work them out and trying to make them come, but for some reason they're just not coming together. You're just not getting enough momentum or enough drive or enough emotion involved to make them happen. When you put what you want to do, put your goals into a storyline. You already know where you've been because this is the first part. Write down your story from then, which is a child, to where you are right now. This may take you a little bit of time to sit down and really think about some things, but you can go back anytime and add to your story as you get memories come out and different things happen. That's more chapters to your story. We all have a big, huge book in our story, but you can make yours as long or short as you choose to because it's your story. You are the author. There's no one else that's going to read your story unless you want them to. So it doesn't matter what you're writing as long as it's from you and it's to you, about you. So no one, like I said, no one is reading this story of you unless you want them to. So right now, you're at that point in life maybe where you've had some success, you've had the career, you've had the greatness of making all the money, and you're so successful with that, and now you've tried a new road and you're on a new path. Now you're looking at, okay, well, what can I do for this path or this season in my life? And I did this a little while back when I was changing things up when I went online. I dropped the corporate gig and went online and went to work for myself. Well, I did my story. I looked at my story that I had been writing over the years and the ups and downs, like I said, the drama, the tears, the sadness, the joy, the laughter, the ups and everything that was happy for me. I looked at all the ups and downs and everything. I looked at my story. So then on this phase of my life, I decided, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue my story because my story's not stopped. It won't stop until I die. And I'm not ready to do that yet. So I looked at my story and I thought, you know what? I'm going to incorporate my goals into my story. And I'm going to write my story, my continuing story. I'm going to write this season of my story, these next few chapters of my story, as if my goals are coming true, as if my goals have manifested. So I did that. I wrote them out. I wrote my goals out and I put it into the storyline of what I was doing and how great this is and how many people I was helping and how it made me feel and how much gratitude I had and play with that. And as my story was evolving in my subconscious, in my imagination, the more I wrote down, the bigger and the more elaborate it got. So I took the goals that I had and mixed them with the dreams of, I'm already living a great life. I have a great life. I have no complaints about my life. I had some changes I wanted to make. So I looked at my story and I thought, you know what? What do I want to change in my life? I have a great life now. What can I do to make me happier, to make people around me happier, to make people around me just, excited to be around, to just, have that enthusiasm. So I wrote that into my story of the emotions I have and how I was letting that flow through. And I thought, you know what? I need to build courses for people. I need to make my business be more of a people-oriented business. Not just about the sale, it's about the people. So I played that into my story about making the business about the people. What can I give to the people? What systems can I create that's going to help more people? What can I do to offer more strategies or more coaching and all these different things I played into it. So I had a whole big long list in my story and I broke it all down into little segments of my story. Again, this is my story. It's my biography. It's all about the story I'm making, the patterns, and everything else that I'm doing. So you can either be the hero or you can be the villain. I tend to be a little bit of both. Depends on what season I'm in. In some parts of my story, even in where I'm at now, I can be the hero or I can be the villain. There's some parts where I'm being the villain, where I'm saying, you know what? I can't do anymore. This is all I can do. And if you're off the track, you're off the track and let it go. That's not being a very good person, now is it? No, to me it's not. Or you could be the hero where you step up and you're like, I'm helping so many people. I want to see people succeed. I want to see people make the $1,000,000. I want to see people live the life of their dreams. Not my dreams, their dreams. So look at that and go forward with it, because you're going to take yourself, sorry about that, guys, to the next step. You're going to take yourself all the way up the ladder to grow and prosper and be everything you need to be in that area, in that space and time. And when you do, you're going to find that there's so much more to your story than what you're actually telling yourself. So be consistent on your story. Put your story out there and tell your story. I incorporated marketing into my story, on how I was marketing my products, how I was marketing my courses. I put into my story just like a commercial. A commercial is a story. A movie is a story. A book is a story. Yeah, it's all goes together. And there's so much more, because we all have a different story that we live. But your story is unique to you. And how you word your story, and you don't have to worry about your grammar being correct or anything, because no one else is reading your story but you. Like I said, I have a lot of different books, a lot of different folders full of my story. And it's my biography, and I've been writing it myself. So when it comes time, I'm going to have the whole biography when I die. My loved ones can look at it, read it, publish it, whatever they want to do, because it's a story of a life lived. And right now, you are living a life that is your story. And you are the author of your story. No one else can change your story and make it true. No one else could rewrite your story and make it true, because you are the one that's writing your story. You are the one that's living your story. So anything you do is part of your story. So what do you want your story to say about you? You could be a screenwriter. You could be a marketer. You could be a commercial writer. You could be anyone you want to be in your story. Your story can be a biography where it's true. Your story can be an imagination. Why not write an imagination story, maybe just a chapter or so in your story biography, and put up there, imagination chapter, or something, your choice. But imagine the life you want to live. Imagine that life lived. Imagine that life right now. What do you do? What do you say? What do you think? What do you feel? What does that story evolve for you? How does that story work out for you? Anything and everything you want to be in your story is there. You just have to write it out. You have to make it happen. Like I say, I talk to a lot of marketers, a lot of people that are just getting into the field and just starting to grow a home business. And there's a lot of crap out there that's not true. There's a lot of crap out there that people just don't know, and they're teaching it to other people anyway, and that's just wrong. So if you're marketing, you want to know the right ways, ask someone who's doing it. Ask someone who's really doing it. Join the right people and surround yourself with the right people. And write this into your storyline, how you did this, how this came about. And also write the outcome of what your story produced for you, not just in revenue and income, but in happiness, in joy, in fulfillment, in being that super great you are. Your story is up to you. Your story tells the life you lived. Now granted, you want to say, okay, what are people going to say when I pass? What is my story? What are people going to remember about me? Write that into your story. Write your eulogy now. Why not? It's a story. Why not write what you want to see happen? And why not use your imagination to make it all come to fruition? You'd be surprised what your words and your energy and your belief will do. When you believe something, I mean believe it in the heart, you have a huge chance, a really, really, really huge chance of making this happen, of making it come to life for you. So take a look at what you're doing. Start right now. Write your story. Start from back in the day and right up to right now. And then pick up and take on from where you want to go. What do you want to see happen? What life do you want to live going forward? What life do you want to live? What home do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a beautiful home with natural woods and mahogany and maybe some oak? Or you want to live in just a plain little house, which is fine. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to live in. It's your choice. Everyone has their own choice. So write your story. And like I said, no one's going to read your story but you, unless you want them to. Correct? Definitely. Okay. I look forward to hearing how many people started their story, wrote their story, and had a super great time doing it. I don't want to hear about your storylines. That's private unless you want to share those. Okay? Have fun with your story.